Hello and welcome to Share Talk. I'm Bonnie Hughes. We have a very interesting guest today. They're just had debuted on AIM, BLOE Energy, here to tell us all about the projects, oil and gas projects in Georgia, and why you may want to be a part of this development and growth story opportunity is Paul Haywood, CEO of BLOE Energy. Hello, Paul, and thank you for joining us today.
Hi, thank you. My pleasure.
Very exciting to debut on AIM. Well done. Please tell us about your project and how you're going to move things forward.
Sure. Well, BLOE Energy is obviously we've just moved onto AIM. We've got an existing focus on Georgia. Georgia is obviously situated south of Russia, north of Turkey, with Azerbaijan down to the east. We've got 3 positions in country. We've got 100% working interest in the Norio oil field, which is governed by a straightforward production sharing contract, 25-year term, etc. We've got a 90% working interest in the Satskanesi field, which is also a producing oil field, and we've got a 5% working interest in the West Rustavi field, which we've also got an option to move to 75%, which is covered in our short and medium term program.
And so these are past producing fields and small current production fields, which helps to reduce the risk. So you're doing a rework over some of the wells. Is that your strategy?
Correct. Yeah. The short-term plan is to basically go back in and re-enter existing wells that are producing oil, basically clean them up, change the pumps, perform some perforate some existing producing zones, and to increase existing oil production. So the company's focused on enhancing existing oil production over the short term, with a medium term focus on exploiting some gas potential that we have in the West Rustavi license. Our immediate focus is on the development side of the story, not so much exploration.
And so you're doing this in a phased approach. Is that so you can use some cash flow to help with further development?
Yes, indeed. The AIM listing process for us was interesting in that we were originally planning to raise a smaller amount of capital and execute a smaller part of our grander plan. But once presenting the story to some of our key investors, we was nicely asked to increase the placing amount so we could execute a larger part of the plan. So now we're on the market, having raised £5 million. We've got sufficient capital to execute a real meaningful chunk of our program, which would get us into free cash flow territory in terms of existing oil production or revenue generated from oil production, whilst also testing some company-making potential gas discoveries that are hosted in the West Rustavi license.
So the first phase is about 250 barrels of oil per day.
Correct, yes.
And then moving to 500.
Correct,
yes. And so when can we potentially expect the 250 BOPPD?
So our immediate program is due to start within the next 3 months. My technical team are currently in Georgia, running through the execution program. We've ring-fenced time for the workover rigs that will be used to perform the operations, and our team are currently in country. So within the next 3 months, we should be announcing our first stage of the work program.
And so how did you come to find this project? Because obviously it's always difficult to find really good projects. So how did this come to you?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, actually. Me personally, I've been kind of working in and around Georgia since around 2009. And I've been involved with private companies in the past that have gone through the tender process and acquiring new licenses. And in a previous life, I actually worked with a company that developed assets and sold assets to a local Georgian oil and gas company. And I worked with that company for a period of 2 years, actually. And consequence of that experience, the opportunities that are now held by BLOE were derived from that time in country, actually. So, the board collectively has in excess of 25 years experience in the industry and country, and that's both from a above surface standpoint to below surface standpoint. My technical director has been operating in country since around 2011, so he knows the operating environment extremely well. He studied the fields we now own intensively over the past 3-4 years. And from an above surface standpoint, I myself have been through the asset development cycle several times over. So the board itself understands the country extremely well.
And so do you have some detailed seismic data that you're working from as well, besides the current wells that are already drilled?
Yes, indeed. That's a good question. So when we initially acquired the assets or became a contracting party to the PSC, we were then issued with the historical data, which was primarily acquired back in the mid-80s, late 80s, which obviously quality wasn't fantastic, but our local partner and major shareholder had started aggressively acquiring new 2D seismic from around 2007, 2008, and we've used that information to basically define our forward work program. So lots of seismic studies, lots of geological studies, comparing old reports with new, and primarily basing our program off of new data as opposed to old.
That's very helpful, because I noticed that some of your new current shareholders on an institutional basis are Amati and Mayan. So they must have been very impressed with all of the information in order to become involved at this stage.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely big supporters of the story. Have bought into the grander plan. Obviously, the Amatis and Mayans of the world are not short-term thinkers. They take longer-term views on their investments, and I think the most compelling part about our existing asset base in Georgia is the plan over the medium to longer term. So lots to look forward to.
And so I guess some of the current news flow coming out will be flow rates, data, seismic data. What can investors expect over the next few months in sort of information coming out in news flow?
Directly from BLOC will obviously be updates on our recompletion and sidetrack programs throughout Norio, Satskanesi and West Rustavi. I should also note that our asset positions are circled around what was originally the largest discovery in Georgia, which is Block 11B. That licence area has now been sold to Schlumberger, who own that licence 100%. And most importantly, I think Schlumberger have just spudded their first well, and they're going to be drilling a horizon in which we flowed, tested and gas from in West Rustavi, and is one of our core focuses. So in parallel to the company's internal work program, there'll obviously be frequent updates to the market, but in alongside that happening, I think we're all watching the Schlumberger work program with great interest, to say the least, because the read across, should they be successful once they test their well, to the block position in country would be significant. So it's exciting times, that's for sure.
That is exciting times, and a good little tip for investors to keep an eye on Schlumberger's news flow as well. Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to getting an update from you in a few months and hearing more about your growth and development. Thank you everyone for joining us on Share Talk. Please have a very profitable day.